Hello and welcome to Alex's Model Kits. In the last few weeks I've been working on a fairly small kit, an Airfix Spitfire, 1/72 scale Spitfire. But I've been trying to do something interesting, something different with it, which is to try and make it into a prototype of the Spitfire, K5054 prototype that first flew in 1936, I believe. There's a bit of conversion work involved with this, and I think maybe the best thing to do is show you what I've done so far. This is the Airfix 1/72 scale Spitfire Mark 1 or Mark 2A. The kit serial number is A02010 and was released in 2010 as a new tool, but had vanished from Airfix's catalogue by 2016. You have two options for this kit, a Mark 1 version with colours and markings based in 1938, and a Mark 2A with colours and markings based in 1941. But I'm not going to go for either of those options. I'm going to have a go at converting this kit to display the prototype that started the Spitfire legend when it first flew in 1936. Known officially as the Supermarine Type 300, but more commonly known after its serial number, K5054. This kit is a good starting point for a conversion to the prototype. Being a newer kit from Airfix, the tooling is good quality, plus it contains an early canopy. The early Spitfires had a smaller canopy, which were phased out very early in the war in favour of the widely used blown canopy. I'm planning to use a set of aftermarket decals from Hallants, the extra decal X72075, which have decals specifically for the K5054 prototype. The first step of the build is the cockpit area. I removed the gun sight from the console as K5054 was not fitted with guns. I then constructed the cockpit following Airfix's instructions, but adding some masking tape to replicate seatbelts. With the cockpit complete, I then put the fuselage together and added the lower half of the wing. I ran into problems when fitting the upper halves of the wings. There seems to be a fit issue with the upper halves, or the fuselage wing roots. Getting the upper halves in place was more than a tight fit, and resulted in distorting the wing shape. To get around this, I sanded back part of the upper wing where it meets the wing root. On the left is the upper wing sanded to fit the fuselage, and on the right is the upper wing in its original form. I also worked on a blanking plate for the exhausts, as K5054 had exhaust slots that were flush to the fuselage. The first few I made, I tried to cut holes to represent the exhausts, but this always destroyed the blanking plate, so I settled on cutting a slit for each exhaust and planned to use some paint to show the exhaust slots more clearly. With the wings in place, I worked on filling some panel gaps. With no guns fitted, there will not be any gun access hatches or spent cartridge ejection holes. The upper wing had those lines filled, but the lower wing remains unfilled so far. I cannot find a good reference to show me what panel lines would have existed for the lower wings, so research continues on that for the moment. I've also added some additional wheel well covers. The prototype would fully enclose a wheel well with a semicircle cover that sat at right angles to the undercarriage leg when the undercarriage was down, but flipped up when the undercarriage was raised to fully cover the wheel well. This was a feature that only the prototype used, and was never used in production. Whilst talking about this kit on Facebook, someone mentioned something that I had not noticed, which is that the radiator cover is extended forward on the prototype. I've scratch built an extension to the cover to try and match this. Another difference to the prototype is the wheel hubs. The production Spitfires had uncovered wheel hubs, showing the detail of the hubs, but the prototype has covers over the hubs. I've tried to replicate this using filler. The plan was to place a dab of filler on each hub, and then once it had dried, sand it back to represent the wheel hub cover. This is not working, as lumps of filler crumble away during the sanding. I'm going to pick this off and give it a bit of thought on finding a better way of doing this. So there we are, that's progress so far. Hope you enjoyed that. In terms of the kit, I quite like this kit. It's a good little kit to work with. Like I say, it's an Airfix, it's a new tooling from Airfix, released in 2010. And yeah, nice. Panel lines are very nice, all very good, with the exception obviously of the fit issue with the upper wings and the wing boots. Never quite figured out why that was the case. I never quite worked out what was going on there, whether that was a mistake by me or whether it was just a general issue with that. I don't know. In terms of the panel lines, the issue I've got with the panel lines on the upper surface, I'm relatively happy. I've kind of gotten rid of the gun access ports, but on the bottom, on the underside of the wings, as I said in the film, I'm struggling a little bit with reference material. I've got two reference sources at the moment that I'm using. One is from Hannant's, the decals, sort of the instructions of the decals themselves. They come with quite a nice set of drawings for the Type 300 Spitfire, and they show quite a few panel lines on the underside. But the other source I'm using is this booklet here, which has a very brief, and when I say very brief, I mean a single page talking about the Type 300 as well, and they're showing a very different arrangement of panel lines. So I'm not sure which is correct. In terms of photographs on the internet, it's not easy to find, mainly because obviously for the underside of the wings, if there's a photograph of the underside of the wings, it will be because the aircraft's flying, and that generally means that the photograph is a little bit blurred, plus it's black and white, plus it's not very well exposed, and I haven't really managed to find a good source there. So I'm still looking around for a good source to work from. So that's one small challenge to deal with. And the other challenge to deal with is the wheel hubs, which I think I showed you in the film. The plan, as I said, the plan had been to place a dab of filler on those hubs and just sand them back to get a smooth finish. That's not working out at all. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think I might ponder. The filler I use is perfect plastic putty, and I know one of the advantages of this is that when you use it, you can then just wipe away the excess with water, which makes me wonder if it's soluble, and if it is soluble, can I mix a dab of that in some water and then just flood that space, the wheel well space, with a watered down filler, and see it dry. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'll give that a go and see what works. If that doesn't work, I'll look for an alternative. One alternative is to just use a bit of plastic card, very thin plastic card, and try and make a cover. I don't think I'd get a good result with that, to be honest, which is why I've tried to avoid it. But if that's the only option forward, then I'll have to investigate that in more detail. Right, so that's the update so far. I think I've taken quite enough of your time. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again. Okay, thanks then, and goodbye.